It is a pre-game show for the ages. This is something we haven't done before here on the DLLS Stars pre-game show. Craig Ludwig, I'm Owen Newkirk. John Andersen is here, but because we're on remote for this, he isn't going to pop in and out of the screen as much as we normally do on the show, which is a disappointment. I think John makes our show better. But in case you're watching this, which we are glad you are, this is pre-recorded. It's Wednesday afternoon because we have a COSM visit tonight. And won't that be fun? Our first DLS Stars watch party at COSM over in the Colony at Grandscape. And it will be Stars and Oilers, this is our pregame show. Ordinarily, we do our stuff live. We get into your chats, super chats, you name it. We're going to do a live postgame show back here on our remotes after the game, but it will be maybe a hair longer after the game than usual because Luds and I and John have to drive home after the game ends at COSM. So
safely.
Or maybe Luds has to get the horse and buggy out and be chauffeured home after having fun at COSM tonight.
We'll play it by ear.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into it. First and foremost, we have good news from Sam Nestler. He is out of surgery as of late last night, had his appendix removed. I spoke to him this morning, and he is at home. It's like an outpatient procedure now, Luds. He's already out of the hospital, back home, and he's hoping to hop on tomorrow, maybe just to say hi, but he's hoping to be back at work on Saturday for the Stars and Kraken, first of two out in Seattle.
Yeah, he just seems to power through, so I'm sure he'll do it again. Yeah, it was funny, a couple text messages that I don't know if they were last night when we were at dinner or if it was this morning, but they were kind of in hieroglyphics, so I thought he was still under the influence of some of the drugs they were giving him.
He might be, but he's okay. So everybody that was concerned about Sam's well-being, hopefully this is a one-off because I haven't heard of anybody having multiple appendix surgeries. So let's hope he's on the mend. So Luds, speaking of on the mend, this is a big game for the Stars. They go on the road. They had a good game on Monday night against the Wild. I don't know if they started great, but boy, did Jake Oettinger play a fantastic game. And we really kind of needed to see that from the Stars' number one goalie, didn't we?
Yeah, I think that, honestly, that was the bright spot of the game. I think that was the highlight of the game. Obviously, anytime a goaltender gets a shutout, it's a highlight. But, and I know Pete had a pretty good glowing report at the end of it and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if we thought it was as good a game as he probably made it sound, for a team that's depleted when it comes to their lineup. I mean, they were, for the players that are out of that lineup, they're missing $45 to $50 million out of their lineup. And it was a close game, and they were out shooting Dallas at the start of the game by, what was it, 5, 6, 7 shots again. And so, I mean, the good news is they picked up the 2 points they needed. But for us, the story was definitely the way that Jake Oettinger played.
Going back to that first period against the Wild, the other thing that I kind of overlooked at the time was, but for the second straight game, Dallas took a bunch of first period penalties. And for kind of looking at the numbers and going, oh, they didn't have a lot of shots on net. They didn't create a lot of chances. Luds, it's not a good recipe, a good formula for them to get into the box, especially at home to start a game.
It's been a trend, right?
Yeah.
Lately. I mean, we've seen that a little bit more. And I don't know if some of it comes out of frustration where maybe you feel like you're not getting the calls that, are going the other way. Pucks that aren't going into the net. They've had this stretch right now where when they played against some top teams, they didn't come out on the right side of it. And so I just wonder if there was a little bit of frustration in there. But when they put it together, I think this is only one game that we're all happy Jake played great, right? So this will be another important one for him tonight. And even though they're missing, the two big bullets out of the gun, it's really about Dallas again. For the Dallas Stars, this is about their game and continue to make strides in all three areas of the game, from their end of the neutral zone to the offensive zone, to where they feel that they're getting better and then get better. And then, and they'll have it's a tough back-to-back, for sure. Calgary's in a spot that, they're hungry and they want to try to find a way to make
playoffs. Tomorrow night in Calgary is not going to be easy, is it?
Well, you know what? You know where they are tonight. This is the crazy
thing. They're in Edmonton.
Oh,
you mean Calgary?
Calgary's in New York tonight.
Oh, wait a minute. They have to. Is it an after? No, it's a night. They have to fly back.
Yeah, so that's
unheard of. How did I not know that? Oh my God! So the Flames have to leave 2 time zones and play a home game tomorrow against the Stars.
Right, and so now does that mean that you come out of tonight's game against a team that's missing, obviously not just their 2 top stars? I'd say 2 of the top 3 or 4 stars in the NHL are not going to be in the lineup for the Edmonton Oilers tonight. You should win this hockey game, right? And so now knowing that team has to travel all the way across the country, does it become, we're going to have the edge on these guys instead of just resetting and play the game?
Okay, I just double checked. It was the Flames were last night at home against the Kraken. They're not in New York tonight. So
I thought it said
no, we've got let's see, we got Islanders Canucks
that's not
tonight.
Good news.
No, so literally, Luds, so it changes us dramatically, and I'm glad we're catching it real quick here. Flames beat Seattle in overtime in Calgary last night, so that means that Calgary will be rested. So, okay, now knowing that, it's even more.
What is today? Today's Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday. By the way, before we started our broadcast, Luds didn't even know what day it was. You thought it was Monday.
Yeah, I did. I did think it was Monday.
Yeah. So think about this.
It's actually Vancouver that's in New York tonight.
Vancouver's at the Islanders. So Flames are rested. How much more important is it for Dallas to play well tonight, knowing that the energy level is massively to the Flames' advantage tomorrow night?
Yeah, of course it's important, but I don't think you look that far. You don't even put that into your mind.
Yeah.
I think what you have to do at this time of the year, the way the team is playing right now, you have to approach every single game. You're going to pour everything into every game. It starts with this game tonight. Don't say, oh, man, we can take our foot off the gas a little bit in the third period. Just play the game you're supposed to play, and then you go ahead and I'm just going to guess that they may put Casey in there tomorrow night, and I would expect that he would have another performance like we've seen from him.
Well, and that's a big thing. So let's talk about Oettinger for a minute in that regard. He plays really well against Minnesota, blanks the Wild for the first time, second shutout this year, 12th of his NHL career. Is it a no-brainer that Jake gets the net tonight, which he is? He's starting against Edmonton. Is there any thought of letting him rest to play Calgary the next night, or is it an absolute unquestionable, you start Jake tonight and you let Casey mop up tomorrow?
I think you've been, not just us, but I mean, I think that the coaches and everybody's been waiting to see that game that Jake had the other night. And you throw him right back in there again. And again, when you look at that game, we talked about it. Jake was waiting on a lot of things. He was dialed in, right? But I felt that the guys in front of him did a pretty good job. There was a lot of those shots that he stopped where they were pretty easy saves for him. He made the hard ones when he needed to make them. But for the most part, I don't think there was a lot of traffic that he had to fight through. And I don't think there was a lot of those passes and pucks that were on passing plays that went east to west. Of course, there's always some. So I don't think it was a really tough game for him. So I didn't even know till just before we went on that he would play. I was just assuming that he would definitely be in.
So let's talk about this, because this is a really important thing in the game. And John, if you want to flash the Stars lines that we started with in the game against Minnesota, we'll take a look at that. Luds, this is how it started. Now, Pete said this morning in Edmonton, no lineup changes. But is it going to be like this, which is how they started against Minnesota with Robertson, Hintz, and Rantanen, or how they finished against the Wild with Marchment and Robertson flipped, because Jason Robertson, Matt Duchene, and Mikael Granlund looked really, really good together?
That's the way I would start. I think that they
with Robo with Duchene.
Yeah, I would make that the way that they ended would be the way that I would start the game, because I think that there was something there and there was a couple comments about it. So I think now you go ahead and you roll with what you finished the game with. You start with that and, see how it goes. I mean, we know that there's juggling that goes wrong with Pete, but I just think that maybe they tried something, and at the end of the game, I'll bet you they sat in there and talked and they said, yeah, we kind of like that look. We like the little tweak in it. So I would just say you start with it.
Now, let's talk about Mikko Rantanen for a second, because obviously every time we play another team, the questions towards the Stars are the same. Now, I did a radio interview this morning up in Edmonton, and great questions from Kevin Karius, but they're all the same. How's Mikko Rantanen filling in? We'll get to Thomas Harley in a minute, but everyone asks about Harley with Heiskanen being out and the Four Nations, and how are you feeling about the Stars? And I heard Pete say this morning in his scrum that he feels like the team's been a bit disjointed, maybe the week before the trade deadline and the week or two that's followed. But everybody asks about Mikko Rantanen and his fit. And if you look back at Monday night against Minnesota, aside from taking a puck to the cheek, I thought Rantanen started to look more dynamic. He had a post, he had a crossbar, he created some problems out there. To me, it wasn't perfect from your new superstar, but in my opinion, I thought we started to see a little bit more of, okay, now he's starting to feel at home with Dallas.
Yeah, and then there's part of that for me that again, like I said when we started here, there's $50 million missing out of that lineup, and that team has been plummeting, Minnesota, and so they're kind of in a free fall right now. Where will they end up for playoff wise? We'll see. But so I would say it's a positive thing that you see some chemistry starting to work. But where we're going to need to see it is when you start playing against some better teams, and it would probably be a better test for him if the other two guys for Edmonton were in the lineup tonight. But regardless of that, I think that you continue to work with your group, with your unit, whoever it is, and steps are steps, regardless of who the opponent is. And I think what happens is you can form a little chemistry, and you can start working with each other, and you start talking with each other where hey, this works here. I like going here. This is what we're trying to do. You need those kind of steps to see some progress in whoever you're going to play with. So, and there's a side of me that gives Pete credit, like saying, we feel this is the best option. These are the two guys he's supposed to be with, regardless of who it is. Stick with it and give him some time.
Okay, so the other thing that seems to be asked constantly is Thomas Harley. And Kevin asked me this morning. We heard the questions to Pete in his scrum, same thing. We've talked about Harley a lot, and he was really good again on Monday against Minnesota, helped set up the Wyatt Johnston goal with a really nice tip-in on the power play. That was the first Stars goal, that 2 goals in a minute with Duchesne scoring right afterwards. But the part I want to go to today is going to Edmonton today. Calgary tomorrow, though they won't have a morning skate. But in Canada, high, intense media scrutiny. You played in Montreal forever. You know exactly what it's like. What do you think Thomas Harley's going through and how it's impacting him now, being one of the things that's being asked about every single time he goes to a road city, especially those big markets where hockey is such a frenzied kind of thing?
Water off a duck's back. My opinion of Harley is that he doesn't get fazed by the pressure. He doesn't get fazed by the moment.
Do you think he likes it?
I think he loves just being able to freewheel, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think that when this is kind of his way of hearing, we want you to go because Miro's not there. It just happened organically. Miro's out of the lineup. They know, hey, you're stepping in here. This is what you have to do. And he's like, well, I know I can do it, so let's go. And I just think that he thrives off of having the puck on his stick. I think he thrives off of the shot that he knows he has. And I think he thrives off of the I don't know if you want to call it pressure. I don't even know if it's pressure for him. I think it's just fun for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like a kid. To me, he looks like a kid in his backyard with a bunch of friends that aren't very good. And he's just kind of dangling around everybody.
Just having a good time.
Well, and there's a lot of talk all the time about Thomas is a very confident person, and he's playing with a ton of confidence. And the moments that I see, if there's a play that doesn't go the way he wants it to go, maybe a puck turns over, he doesn't play a one-on-one right, I always look at the next 2 shifts after the player. So how does he adapt? He goes right back and does the very same thing. He plays the same way. So it's not like he gets rattled. Those moments don't rattle him, I think, because he knows that he's smart enough to know, I made a mistake. I'm going to go out next time, and I'm going to stay out an extra 10, 15 seconds to make up for that one. You're always supposed to do the opposite. Just go out there, make sure the coach is like, oh, yeah, he already gathered himself. He goes out, he does the same thing. And generally, do we ever see him there was one game I can remember within the last 3 or 4 games where I thought he made 2 turnovers on the same shift. I've never seen that happen before, and that's the only time I've seen him do it. But at least he goes right back to the well, and he keeps on trying it. But I guess what I'm saying, he's loaded with the confidence, and he goes, hey, mistakes are part of the game, but that's what I do.
Great comp to that. rewind about 5 years. Ben Bishop is your Dallas Stars starting goalie. And I can't remember the game, but I will never forget this. There was a night where he got beat on a play where I think it was short side high. And he was asked about it post game. And Ben Bishop was great with the media. He was always very honest with his game. And I'll never forget this, Luds. He said, I did everything I wanted to do. I read the play. I moved the technique, what I would have tried to make that save. He goes, it just went in. I wouldn't change anything. Next time I'd like to make that save. He goes, but I didn't do anything wrong. And to me, that reminds me so much of what you just talked about with Harley is he's so confident in what he can do that even if there's a mistake somewhere, he's not changing what he's doing just because the result that one time didn't go his way.
And the other thing about Harley is he's not a risky player from his zone to the tops of the circle. He's not. Where we talk about Miro all the time and how I say how he can break down the defensive coverage when he leaves his zone because he doesn't do it with a pass generally. It's with his legs. And when you beat the first guy with your legs and now you're moving into a different area of the ice, coverage has to change. And then Miro moves the puck. It's just the opposite with Harley for me. When he's in his D zone, his first look is to make that pass. It's not to skate it out. Same thing in the neutral zone. He makes that pass. You see how many passes he makes from his own blue line right away to the far blue line, some winger standing there. He doesn't try to skate it 5-10 feet then make the play because he doesn't want them to have to stop their momentum. Now, where he takes over, which is why I think we like him so much, is from the top of the circle in the offensive zone and down. That's where his confidence kicks in. For me, it does. As far as his legs, his skill, he navigates through some of that traffic and he doesn't look for too much. He may have to make a move or two to get past the first defender. And then when he sees a shot lane, whether it's through the sticks and feet or it's on net, he takes it. He doesn't try to get, we've seen how many forwards do we see? They beat a guy, then they want to get a little closer, then they want to
try to make a fancy play.
Everything shuts down. And not only that, what happens is when you beat the first guy, there was a lapse in coverage, right? Now you take a couple more strides to try to get in a little closer. They all kind of get back to where they're supposed to be. Yep. Now all of a sudden you run into a problem. If you just got it up, because the one breakdown should lead to two breakdowns.
I can't tell you how many times, I'm going to bring in soccer for a minute, so bear with me, but how many times, whether I'm coaching my kids U13s, the U16s, or you watch pros, guy beats a man one-on-one on the dribble, gets past him, all of a sudden opens up a little space, and then wants to take on the next guy rather than make the pass when the space is still there. And it's the same in hockey as you just described. We're going to talk more about that in just a moment here on the DLLS Stars pregame show. But let's talk about Sleeper, the best fantasy league platform out there. Put your puck knowledge or your ball knowledge to the test by picking whether your favorite or least favorite players will have more or less than their projected stats each week. I can't wait to see what John has for his picks here in just a moment. But with Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. Sleeper keeps you in the loop with instant alerts for breaking news and major injuries. Stay ahead of the game and keep track of league updates in real time so you're always informed and ready to outsmart your friends. If you think you have what it takes, new users can download the Sleeper app and use the code DLLS Stars to get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest. Apply it to any contest. Doesn't have to be your first. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. And now, with our Sleeper game picks, here's John.
Yeah, we need to get a win on the board here, fellas.
We do.
And unfortunately, that means I have to hit all three of these. So I'm going a little safer today than usual. And apparently what we've learned, the safest pick is to go Esa Lindell less than 2.5 block shots. So we're going to run with that until the wheels fall off. The only trend I'm bucking here is Mikko Rantanen. Show me something, man. Let's get something on the board. Let's go Mikko Rantanen more than 0.5 assists tonight. And let's ride Jake Oettinger after his shutout performance the other night. Let's go Otter more than 25.5 saves. Put them together, $10 gets you $57.60.
Thank you, John. Luds, I want to talk about one more thing of Harley, and then we'll get into
I can't believe John's not betting on some Harley stat in there.
I know. Go with Thomas right now. He is on fire. In that vein, and then we'll look at the Oilers. Do you recall, and I'm sure you don't, no, you might actually, when we were talking about Harley's possible contract before he signed in the summer, when we just started our show, there was a lot of comps about Evan Bouchard. And we were talking about, well, Bouchard's money might be similar to that. He scored similar goals, but can he be the constant goal scorer? Because at the end of last season, after a real offensive surge from Harley, it dried up a bit toward the end of the season and into the playoffs. At this point, with what Harley's done this year, particularly in the second half of the year in the Four Nations, I kind of feel like that's an old news talking point that he's pushed into the back burner, don't you think?
Well, Bouchard's got 13 goals on the season.
Not bad. Right? Not bad at all. Very,
Not
very
bad
good.
at all. But when you watch the rest of his game, like he is a dangerous threat when he's on the offensive blue line, especially on the power play. Right now, it may be a little bit different because they're missing their two big guys. So he doesn't get the puck in the right areas for him that those guys can kind of create that space. But it's when it's going back his way. He does not defend well. He doesn't read some of the situations well. So I look at him, and I don't want to say he's one-dimensional because I've seen him play good games. But there's times where you go, what are you doing? You know, and I think that they live with that because of what he brings on the offense, right? And so Thomas Harley is not a liability going back into his own zone. You know, he play everything perfectly, and sometimes he kind of reaches a little bit for the puck, and he may get beat back to the inside, but occasionally. But for the most part, I will take Harley over Bouchard any day of the week right now, as far as being a complete defenseman at both ends of the rink.
That's a great way to segue into the biggest storyline for the Oilers right now. And Letty, you already alluded to it. They are missing their two best players. It's not a debate. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are both out of the lineup. Now, that's not a surprise for tonight. We knew they weren't going to play. Draisaitl did skate this morning as part of the morning skate, and Chris Knobloch said that probably about a week away from Draisaitl's return, maybe a touch earlier than that. And then he said Connor will be longer than that. And Luds, when you hear that, what does that make you think?
It makes you think exactly what I think I saw the night that I was watching, and he grabbed his hip area. I think it's his groin, or it could be hip flex or something like that. But the way and as he was coming into the offensive zone, I saw him take a stride, and immediately his right hand came down and he grabs where his hip is. And it was kind of in front of his hip. So I thought groin right away. So that's long. He's long. I believe at the moment, I thought he was going to be long-term or longer than what they said.
A couple weeks at least.
Yeah. So
at least.
So that's tough for them. And he hasn't had a great season this year, you know, to his standards from the standpoint of putting the puck in the net. So, but that takes away from everything else that team does, and Draisaitl especially. I mean, those two guys are on the same page, and they can set each other up. You know, they kind of have that telepathy going on. They know they're like twins. So Draisaitl, though, is the kind of guy that can do it, you know, a little bit more on his own if he has to. I think the guy that's probably going to hurt the most from it is Hyman, because the way that he wants to be right in the crease in front of the net. And he takes advantage of those plays, especially from McDavid, where he sets them up because he doesn't move. He gets to the right spot to the rink. But with those two guys out now, I was looking at all the numbers and the goals and things like that from the forward group that's in the lineup tonight. With those two guys out right now, they're 43% of the points of the numbers. Now that's just the forward group. So you can see they're down almost 50% on pucks going in and with those two guys out of the lineup. So, you know, do they have to change their game? That's up to their coaches, and how are they going to go about it? So I just think there's a lot more pressure on the guys in the back end. So, and I think that when you talk about Bouchard, you may see some outnumbered rushes the other way, only because he will be trying to make up for those two guys being out of the lineup and create a little bit more.
I heard a stat earlier this week, and I wish I'd written it down because you'd think that would be the way to do it professionally, but I'm going to have to sort of fudge it a little bit, where basically Draisaitl and McDavid have been so consistent and so healthy over the course of the last, I want to say 6 to 8 years. I can't remember what the number was. That's what I'm trying to remember. But Luds, they hadn't had a game, the Oilers, with both of them out of the lineup for a while. Right? Where it's always been at least one in or the other or both. And they've been a constant presence in this lineup. So as we look at the forward group, John, if you would put that up for the Oilers, who we talked about Hyman struggling a bit because he doesn't have them. Who has to pick up the minutes? Because it's not just the incredibly high bar of play. It's Draisaitl and McDavid play a ton. So who has to pick up that slack for Edmonton right now?
For me, it's RNH. Nugent Hopkins. That's the guy that I think will get the share of, more power play time, more 5-on-5 time. Henrique, of course. I think they would love to see Arvidsson kind of pick up his pace,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't. Besides that, I'm not sure who else they can actually lean on.
What do you think? I mean, Jeff Skinner was a healthy scratch the last time these two teams met. Obviously, the injuries mean he gets more ice time, and he's not a fourth line guy. That's probably why he got scratched, because if they're not going to play Skinner in a scoring line, they don't want him on the ice. Can he be a threat? I know he's more of a threat in one direction than the other, but he is still a very talented offensive player, even if he hasn't had the kind of numbers this year that you would expect from him.
He hasn't had those kind of numbers since he signed that contract.
Yeah.
He's got 14 goals this year, which I think is a high for him in the last few years. But I don't know what's happened to the guy. But the times that I've been able to watch these guys play and he's in the lineup, you leave the game sometimes thinking, where was Skinner? Like, he signed for 60+ million or something like that. Whenever that contract was, that big one that he did. I don't know what he got here in Edmonton or what his deal is now. But anyway, he's been a disappointment. And has he made the playoffs yet?
No. In fact, this year he's the longest active player in the league without a career playoff game. So he's on a 1 year, $3 million this year.
Right. And so, I mean, $3 million for 15 goals. If he gets to 15, 16, 17 goals, he's got.
For a guy that scores like that, 1 for 3 sounds like a prove it year, doesn't it? Kind of contract.
Sure does. Yeah, sure does. Well, I don't think he's been able to prove it for a long time that he was the guy that he was that initially earned that
with Carolina or Buffalo.
Hasn't been that guy. So I wouldn't count on him. I think Nugent Hopkins has always been a good player. I think he rides the shadow of those other two guys. So maybe this is a time where he can step out of it. And we'll see how. But again, they don't have the same group. The balance of that team is off with these two guys out of the lineup.
All right, let's talk about your favorite part, the defense, and take a look at the Oilers on the back end. No doubt this is better than the last time. The Stars didn't play well against Edmonton, but they still made it a game and made it nervous with some power play percentage and Rantanen getting on the board. But you've got Ekholm back. He was ill the last time. You've got Wallman in for more games from the trade deadline. I like him as a player, Luds, and I know that Edmonton was in on trying to get Rantanen, and the Stars won that race, but getting Jake Wallman definitely makes their back end better.
100%. And I think that Darnell Nurse has calmed his game down a little bit. I feel that when he signed his big deal, his game changed a little bit, and he was trying to, he earned the money that they paid him. And I think he went out and he was trying to be more of an offensive kind of guy. And there were some mistakes that were being made on his part. I think Darnell Nurse and Wallman, to me, would probably be their steadiest pair to play against top lines, because, and Ekholm for sure. I think Ekholm is the best all-around guy there. Their best.
Do you think this is their best top 4 defensively we've seen in a long time in Edmonton?
Yeah, but again, I go back to the Bouchard thing. So
I know
that's the only thing that scares me. But I like those 3 guys, the 3 of the 4. Bouchard, you would have to throw Bouchard into it, because Ekholm is that kind of guy that you want to put with an offensive guy. He can make up and he can take, recover and slow the pace down a little bit if Bouchard gets caught up in the offensive zone or something like that.
Is Ekholm the closest on the Oilers, maybe to the way Essa is for the Stars in Lindell?
Yeah, for sure. I think Ekholm's always been. I mean, when he was in Nashville, he was just the rock there. And I think he's a rock here. And I think from the first few weeks that I saw him, once he got there, it looks like he kind of grabbed the team too. Yeah. It looked like he's that leader, and he kind of was a vocal guy on the ice during the play and things like that. And you could see where he's pointing to other players and, holding them accountable. So, I really like him as a defenseman.
So this is the beginning of a 4-game road trip for Dallas. They play tonight, as we talked about earlier, and we discovered that they aren't going to
not in New York,
which is good, because frankly, I've never heard of a team having to go 2 time zones on a back-to-back. That would be crazy, but maybe crazier things have happened. Because they have the Flames resting at home tomorrow in Calgary, and then they have to fly out and play Saturday, Monday in Seattle. Where do you look for this? I mean, that's not an easy road trip. Now, Seattle's not very good, and it's 2 games over 3 days, but to me, so important to try to get points tonight, because tomorrow's going to be a really tough one, even if you have DeSmith doing such great things when he comes in on those hard games.
Take care of one game at a time. Yep. That old cliche, because the team that's chasing you is on fire. Colorado's playing well, and you can't look behind you. You just have to take care of the game that you have to take care of, which we always try to say that all the time. And it's always hard to look ahead or not look ahead. But I think they have to. And I think that there's a bit of is it a trap game tonight? Kind of just because those two guys aren't there. They know the situation that they're in. I mean, this is where you kind of lean on the leadership of your group and say, listen, it don't matter if those two guys are in the lineup or not tonight. We need these 2 points because there's somebody coming up on our heels behind us, and they're rolling right now. And we want to at least have that home ice. We're not looking towards Winnipeg. I mean, that's still on the table, but all you can really do is take care of this one game and then move on from there. Because again, tomorrow night, that's going to be a tough game for them. They're a stingy team to play against. You know, it may not be where you're going to get more than 3 goals tomorrow night. So you got to take care of this one now.
When you watch our post-game show, which will be live after tonight's Stars-Oilers game, we're going to lean on you for some extra super chats for 2 reasons. One, no Sam and Sean, so it's just me and Luds, although let's face it, we can talk our way through an hour of hockey. That's not a big deal. Just should have seen Luds at our charity dinner last night.
We might be speaking in different kind of sentences by the time COSM's over tonight.
That's a big part of it. And that's my second part. Tonight is our COSM night, which means that Luddy and I are going to be watching in a way that we've never seen before. Hockey on a big dome screen. I don't know if we'll have the exact same analysis that we normally do, because with being diehards, I'm probably not going to track every quality chance like I do in our studio. I don't even know if I'll be allowed to bring my laptop in or not. We're going to have to do it in a different way tonight. And Luds, maybe that'll be a fun way to do it.
It's called 1-800-WING-IT.
Well, we will do just that. Post-game show will be a little later, but it will be live remote because we've got to drive home from COSM to our broadcast locations, our houses, and then we'll hop on. We'll do your super chats. We'll have a lot of fun. It'll be Stars After Dark. It'll be goofy. And maybe we'll even say hi. Well, we won't talk to Sam today. We'll talk to him hopefully tomorrow, but we'll still have a good time, and John will be here too. So that's our pregame show. If you are watching this, we will already be at COSM getting ready for the puck drop tonight, a late one in Edmonton. And don't forget to check out us live postgame shortly after the end of the Stars and Oilers. For Craig Ludwig and our producer, John Andersen, I'm Owen Newkirk. Thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget, go on our website and sign up. Golf with Craig Ludwig, part of a foursome on the 25th at Stevens Golf Park, is still up for sale.
There'll be no Gatorade there.
Go get it before somebody else snatches it up here on DLLS.
Believe that they are going to crush these guys tonight.
We all silly like the mayor.